Christmas. A miserable time of the year. The sky is grey, all the trees are dead, and of course, it's freezing. When you're out on a walk, your socks get wet. If you're in a vehicle, you're likely to be trapped in the snow so you can't go anywhere. So, what is so good about this time of year? Well, one thing for sure is the presents. You wake up early on Christmas Day, you're full of energy from the excitement, so you run downstairs all giddy and you get to open them all. You see this here? This is a PlayStation 1 memory card. Most kids today will not have the slightest idea what it is. Today, everyone has console and cloud storage. For us back then, we had to rely on these memory cards, and they only had 15 save slots, and some games required 2 slots. Ridiculous! But then again, which is worse? This we can save 15 games, or a 500 gig console we can only play about 4 or 5 games because they demand over 100 to install. Yeah, I know the pain. Hard Trilogy, nice. I haven't played it in such a long time. The Die Hard films are some of the greatest action movies ever made, and they never get old. Well, maybe except for the 5th one. Yeah, we can forget about that one. But the real question is, and always has been, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? I'll let you think about that while I pop this baby in the dish tray. Alright, I'm ready. Let's dive back into the past one more time to find out if this game is as good as we remember. Let's live the moment one more time. First of all, Die Hard Trilogy for the PS1 was released late August in 1996, just in time for the Christmas shopping. It seems like a good deal as it's 3 games in one. They're based on the movies from the trilogy. There's Die Hard, Die Hard 2, and Die Hard with a Vengeance. Also, each gameplay is different too. The first one is a third-person shooter, the second is a light gun game, and the third one is a driving game. Today, we're going to take a brief look at them all to see how well they play. Starting with Die Hard 1. You get this heavily compressed movie menu of John McClane's limo arriving at the Nakatomi Plaza, and it clearly hasn't aged well at all. Cool at the time though. Upon hitting new game, you go down in an elevator to the garage. You better be ready to go out guns blazing, because when you hear that nostalgic music play, you know it's time to seek and destroy.
Get the hell out of here! Great! Want to stay alive? Stay with me.
So the goal in each stage is simple. Kill all the terrorists and save as many hostages as possible for a high score. Saving hostages is not required to complete the stage, and if they die, your score is slightly decreased in true arcade fashion. But who cared about a high score? You just wanted to make it to the next floor and deal some death. While running around as Paper-Thin John, you can find useful items such as health, armor, and weapons. When an item is picked up, you'll get a classic one-liner.
Ho ho ho! I've got a machine gun!
I thought Hans Gruber said that, but never mind. Running and gunning down terrorists is so fun, but if you take on a crowd, you could lose chunks of health. To avoid this, you can dodge right out of trouble. You need to try and do it every time an enemy has the scope on you. It's a cool idea and it's shown on the right side of the screen. When you see it pop up, simply hit the dodge button and then take them out. Just make sure you're standing right in front of them, as landing shots on the enemy can be a little awkward. Also, this means you're an easy target too. Let's just say, sometimes, as soon as you've been spotted, you've already been shot. When you've killed all the terrorists, a bomb is triggered in a nearby elevator. You have 30 seconds to locate and disarm it, which is barely enough time, so you better be dashing around in a panic while checking that minimap. I bet this caused a lot of headaches for many of us back in the day, because no matter how well you did on a stage, if you couldn't find the right elevator, it's an instant game over. You'll lose a life, and of course, you'll have to restart again. Die Hard 1 is hardcore. It doesn't matter which floor you're on. If you was like me and didn't save the game, you're starting back at the beginning again. I think it's a good time to mention right now that this game is hard as nails. As a kid, I usually made it to the 3rd or 4th floor, sometimes the 5th if I was lucky. Because as you play on, there's more enemies to take down, and if you don't play carefully, it's easy to lose lives. And like I've just said, it doesn't matter how well you did either. If you can't find that bomb, you'll have to do it all over again. But if you do manage to survive long enough, then you'll take an elevator right up to the roof for a bonus stage. You escort hostages to safety to earn more points. Yeah, I don't really care for this. You can discover an extra few pickups and that's pretty much it. There's nothing else to say besides you're likely to get shot and lose health. So to me, the bonus stage isn't worth it. And that's about all there is to Die Hard 1 in terms of gameplay. Run, gun, and die. So here's a few things I like about the game. First of all, the graphics. Yeah, sure, the 2D characters hasn't aged well and the draw distance is very poor, but for 1996, this was amazing. It was very lifelike, especially for an early 3D game. Young me thought this was the best looking game out of my collection. How the times have changed. Another thing I approve of is the environment. It's destructible and you can use it to your advantage. Like, you can use it to see enemies coming around the corners so you can get the jump on them. The only thing that I dislike is the difficulty. Over time, it gets slowly cranked up past 10 as there's more terrorists to kill. I know John McClane is supposed to be this average guy overcoming the odds like, but this is overkill. McClane didn't have to face this many people in the movie. It was just a small group of well-educated guys. But here, it's like Hans Gruber brought a goddamn army. And speaking of Hans Gruber, eventually I did finish the game and I found out that you don't even see him. Because once you finish the last stage, which is like any other stage by the way, you get this cutscene. Like, what? You just limp away from the building after wasting about 800 guys? Yeah, it's a funny scene when you think about it, but really? No confrontation with Gruber? What a shame. I expected a boss fight or something like that. And no, this boss on the last stage doesn't count because you can encounter them regularly throughout the game.
Bad guy!
Oh well. At least the name entering screen is cool.
Yippee-ki-yay!
Now that was Die Hard 1. As a kid, that was my favourite game out of the three, and I still found it very challenging, but I enjoyed it, which is the main thing. So with that being said, let's take a look at the next game.
Holy Mother of Mercy! This intro is worse than Die Hard 1. You might as well be watching a static TV. So why even bother making an intro if you know it's going to be this bad? Anyway, Die Hard 2, it's a rail shooter. I love these types of games. Fast-paced action all the way. So, like most of on-the-rail shooters, the objective in each stage is to literally shoot the shit out of everything. It's brilliant. I don't remember McClane strolling around the airport with a rifle, shotgun and a bazooka, but it's good fun. To progress through the stage, you have to eliminate all the terrorists in the current area. Your health is represented by badges in the bottom left corner of the screen. If you're low on health, don't worry, you can shoot cola vendors and you can have a nice, lovely, refreshing drink. And then it's back to mass killing. The henchmen pop out of nowhere, everywhere. You have to be quick to aim and reload so you don't get shot. It's a good thing that the enemies are easy to kill. Usually a bullet or two does the trick, and they go down like a sack of bloody potatoes. Along the way you can shoot pickups that give you health, instant reloads, and best of all, weapons. You can get rifles, SMGs, shotguns, and it makes you feel powerful. Like, real powerful. Check this out.
It's like McClane doesn't give a shit. Anyone, anywhere, including hostages, will get it. They will be no longer a pending corpse. Because, you know, they are a corpse. Let's move on.
Interestingly, the game hits a few story beats from the movie, much more than Die Hard 1, which is really cool. At the beginning you walk into the airport and then you make your way to the Skywalk area, but sadly you don't see the T-1000. This thing blows up and then you're underground in the dark tunnels. And you even get the old ejector seat scene. Nice.
An ejector seat.
So I've been using the regular controller, which is alright, but this would be a lot better with a light gun. The first few stages is a breeze, but then it gets real hard. You start missing pickups and there's a lot more bad guys to kill. With the controller, it becomes increasingly difficult to line up your shots. You end up taking many hits and before you know it, it's game over. And that leads me to my next point, health. You don't have a lot of it and it becomes a problem in the later game. There's no cola vendors and you have to rely on shooting health packs, and they're really easy to miss. Now, I did attempt to play this game legit, but I kept on dying because there's so much going on at once, so many item drops, so many terrorists, so much mayhem. This is mind-numbing. You're literally shooting at anything because there's so many guys on screen, and as you kill them off, even more of them appear, out of nowhere. Like here, they're just falling from the sky. It's like the makers of the game just ran out of ideas and thought, fuck it, let it rain people instead of snow. That's logical. Next you're on this snowmobile and it gets even worse because you're constantly moving. Now you can't hit shit. What's going on? What's with the vice versa stuff? And then you start to feel sick as your brain overloads with the amount of targets on screen. Then finally, it's up to the skies to shoot down the general's plane. It's like McClane never jumped off the helicopter, which makes perfect sense. So here, all you have to do is shoot the engines and it's bon voyage! A decent ending to the game.
So yeah, that was Die Hard 2, another great rail shooter. It looked good, it sounded good, it played okay with a controller, and my only complaint is really, again, just the difficulty. Long stages without checkpoints is always going to be frustrating if it's difficult. But yeah, there is fun to be had with this game, even though you might want to tear your hair out at times. Anyway, let's move on and play the final game in the trilogy.
Die Hard with a Vengeance, here we go. First of all, I expected a black screen for a menu because that would be the only thing worse than Die Hard 2's menu. But yeah, this is acceptable. So this is the driving game. I remember this being easily my least favourite game out of the three. I hated it. The goal is mostly just driving to locations of bombs before they detonate. And by the looks of things, you start off by getting out of a helicopter and into the taxi. Which is stupid when you think about it. For a start, wouldn't you just stay in the helicopter because it's faster? And what's the deal with the birds? It looks like they're stalking the car. So a few things to note. There is speed boost to help you reach the bomb quicker, but you're more likely to crash. On some streets you can pick up extra time, but again, you'll mainly crash and lose time that you just gained. Can you see what the problem is? Crashing. As you play on, each stage has you disarming more bombs, and sometimes you'll need to take out bomb vehicles. You have to drive like a madman and ram into them repeatedly. You can probably guess how well that went. And in between stages, there's these subway races. You go head to head with a truck, and you guessed it, you have to win the race to disarm another bomb. I am getting sick of saying bomb now, but yeah, you have to race in the same dark tunnel each time and it never changes. Keeping with the consistency of story beats, the next stage is set in Central Park, but no measuring water in jugs this time, I'm afraid. Just more of...
well, you get the point. They could have added different objectives to mix up the gameplay, but they didn't. And then again, why would they? The driving sucks!
So, just like in Die Hard 1, the later stages is recycled, but the environment slightly changes, and you get some stages set during the night. I do think that the open environment is great, even though it can look like a blocky mess, but the main issue I have is that you are never allowed to explore New York City, due to the time limit. When it expires, you'll be always sent back to the latest checkpoint. Yeah, this is the only game that has checkpoints, and you know, they screw you over. You respawn at the last disarmed bomb, but now I can't make it to the next one. There's not enough time. It doesn't give you enough time. It doesn't matter. I always die before I get to the bloody corner.
Did they even test this when they were making the checkpoints? I can't do it, even with infinite lives.
So, therefore, I conclude the checkpoints are not actually checkpoints. They are death traps. They want you to die, and I can't be asked restarting. So after many attempts and a headache later, I gave up and looked online, and luckily I discovered another helpful cheat. Infinite boost, and this time I just barely made it. And I mean, just barely. Seriously, why bother making checkpoints if they don't even give you enough time to get to the next bomb? Oh well, at least I can make it to the end of the game now. So yeah, this is the last stage in the trilogy. I finally made it, and to my surprise, you actually get a boss fight. Sort of. Like in the movie, Simon Gruber's in a helicopter, but instead of shooting him down, you chase him in the car. You find launch spots, and you bounce on the top of his helicopter in an epic way. It's ridiculous, but I love it. For once, I'm actually enjoying myself. But it doesn't matter. This fight is still going to come down to the last second. Can we make it? Let's find out.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
With Simon Gruber defeated, the trilogy is now over. Vengeance was tough. It's very flawed and unfair at times. It could have been a good driving game if they fixed the controls and gave you different objectives, but most of all, enough time to complete them. But all in all, you might want to skip this one and just stick to the other two. Also, they're very enjoyable in small doses and extra credit for the different types of games. If you was a fan or not, this definitely appeals to a wider audience. So overall, Die Hard Trilogy for the PlayStation 1 is another classic.
So that is it. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, or whatever you want to call it. Enjoy your day. I'm out of here because now I need to set a turkey on fire. So I'll catch you in the new year. Oh, and by the way, in the meantime, happy trails.